Okay, we will start the meeting. Need something to buy.
There you go.
Okay, so it's the FCC Delegates meeting, May the 21st, 2025. We will start the meeting with a roll call.
Yes, and as a reminder for people on the Zoom, if you can't hear Mike, just put it in the chat and I'll tell him to talk louder.
I will scream.
Abbott Loop, don't see, yeah, and I think will come, Fairport Heights.
Yep, I'm here. This is Emily Fairport Heights.
Great, we can turn it up. Yeah. Dasher. Do we have Basher? Did I miss it? Oh, I saw them. Bay Shore Flat. Hello, Bear Valley, I have not seen, but we remember. Okay, Firstwood, Campbell Park, we have somebody new, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, my name is Steve Johnson. I'm substituting for Kevin Pine, who's on his way to Fairbanks.
Busy, welcome, Chukia. I didn't see that. Down. Oh, Patty is here for Abbott. Thank you. Downtown. I don't think so. Eagle River.
Eagle River is here.
Hey, Cliff. Eagle River Valley.
Eagle River Valley is here.
Hey, Alex. Eklutna. Fairview.
Kelly is here.
Hey, Kelly.
Hi.
Birdwood.
Yes, President.
Thank you. Glen Outs. We're welcome,
Here.
Greg. Welcome back to the fold, Glen Outs.
Thank you.
Government Hill was not able to be present today. Neither was Hillside, Huffman O'Malley. I do not see Midtown. I do not see Mountain View.
Present.
Thank you. North Star. I do not see Northeast. I see her. I know she's there. She popped up here.
I'm here.
I see you. Old Seward Ocean View.
Yes, Gary is here. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. No Portage. Rabbit Creek was unable to attend. Do we have Rogers Park? Rush and Jack.
Here.
Thank you. Fan Lake.
Here.
I don't see Scenic Foothills, so he might be voted in absentia. South Edition.
Here.
Thank you. No South Fork, Spinard. Here. Taku Campbell.
Here.
Hi, Candy. No tutor today. Turn again. Here. Thank you. Turning it Art.
Present.
Okay, Michael and University.
Steve John. Here.
And we do have four. So.
Excellent.
I'm gonna go.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So we will jump straight to the consent agenda. So we have approval of tonight's minutes, approval of tonight's agenda and the previous meeting's minutes. Someone would like to move to accept the consent agenda? Thank you. Second. Good. Any, if there's no questions on no suggested changes to the agenda or things to the minutes, I will seek consent for the consent agenda. Not seeing anybody say no, so consent agenda is now passed. We're zipping through today. So we will jump straight to the committee updates. We had the ad hoc committee that we introduced at the last meeting, so I think there are some minutes for that.
More of a note.
Okay, some notes. So I think we have several people who form that part of that committee, so I believe it's coming for.
Orla was the chair for that committee.
Alan, would you like to just go ahead and speak about the the outcome of the ad hoc committee on outreach policy? You're still showing us on mute, Pamela. This isn't working. I would ask somebody else who was part on the committee. Emma or Jerry or-
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I couldn't get this turned on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Ari for cleaning up our notes, making them readable. I think it's a very good report. Basically, the underlining premise is that there was nothing contrary to the actual policy in place regarding the email sent out, because it went through the actual presidents and went forward from there. But we did have a very good discussion, I think, and the points are within that report that perhaps it's wiser for us to look at this sort of thing, not only in the policy, but in the procedures as well as in our bylaws, as the bylaws committee is working on that. Our greatest concern was that the FCC become the arbiter of all things, which is really not its position to do. But the other view on that is that this is a municipality of Anchorage engagement. So just to look at all those things, and I think we had a robust discussion. Points again are very clear in there. If anybody else would like to chime in, that would be great. But it's something that needs to be looked at in the future. I think always when things come up, you get a better view of how other people are seeing what you're doing. And I think that was helpful.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the committee? Anyone else would like to add anything? Harry, go ahead.
If you like to comment, I was on the subcommittee myself and wanted to emphasize what Pamela said on 2 points that I thought were important. One was the emphasization on the municipality of Anchorage. Federation serves the communities of the muni, and there was a big suggestion and as well as the realization that a lot of the controversies that came with the email and whether the questionability of how partisan the distributing this email from the senator was. It was that it focused a lot on federal and state issues, and it had colored language and came from a sitting senator, and it could be skewed or it's not misinterpreted as political. So we feel that the more grounded it is in the muni and less from federal government or state government, the more it's centered around what we do. So that's why we put an emphasis on the civic engagement. Our civic engagement mainly revolves around the muni. And yeah, and the second point was on the dissemination of proof from information. Council-wide has come from the council's president. We wanted to emphasize that although some council presidents may delegate a lot of the online stuff, their email lists, or what is disseminated through information to someone that's more tech savvy, approval for what gets disseminated should and always be with the full approval of, well, the knowing approval of the council president. That's all.
Thank you.
And that's ultimately where the responsibility lies. It's with the council presidents and.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I think it was really good to get the opinion to the right group of active people. With it, sorry, the things about this are, we also looked at the outcome here in the bylaws committee, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a little time. And I think this also brought up some issues in our procedures. So if you can speak to.
Yeah. And I just want to recognize Hillside and Rogers Park have joined us. Oh, and Basher. procedurally, when, and for clarity, you guys set the policy and then I set the procedure of making sure how everything, unfolds. And I realized that it should be an easier flow chart of like, yes, no. And so I rewrote, it, so it was a little clearer. And one of the things that we did, in response to the policy review is change the policy if somebody reaches out to us and they want us to forward everything to councils, we now instead direct them to the contacts list and allow them to forward it to councils. Because there was a question there as to whether we should be able to forward stuff or they should be responsible. And until we're able to like formally review the policy, we're gonna keep that procedurally as taking a step back from that level of involvement. And then if the board comes back to that policy and reviews it and wants to keep it, then we can readjust readjust the procedure, but right now it's not there, it's not clear, so we felt like based on the recommendations, taking a step back and just saying, you know, if you wanna share it with all the presidents, you can, here's our contact list, but we're not gonna take the extra step of forwarding it unless it comes within our, one of our other purviews, like the weekly newsletter, yeah, essentially.
In the hypothetical, would this mean with this new policy going forward, if the senator were to, the senator, instead of sending the emails to you, would now go to the council president directly and ask for the survey location?
Yes, and they could still take the same step of presidents could still forward it to us and say, please share this with our membership. The thing that it removed was us going as far as to share it. So in an example, like the survey, we would first walk it through if it met our policies or procedures for the weekly newsletter, and if it didn't, I have built a template email that we can just copy paste that says like, thank you so much for reaching out. This does not fall within our weekly newsletter. If you're interested in sharing it with community councils, you can find our contact information here. And that kind of like takes us a step back from that level. I still would love the board's like I would love to adjust the policy to reflect that a little bit more, but in the meantime, I felt like this was us finding a middle ground until we have the time, because we have other stuff we're doing.
Any other comments or thoughts on this topic? So the outcome of this, we'll consider it when we're looking at bylaws. There might be some additions to, in fact, there almost certainly will be additions to the bylaws that address the boundaries around this type of activity. We've updated the procedures to make sure that we at least have something that works for now. And then I think we, as a body, as delegates, will review probably around the time or after we get the bylaws finished. We'll probably go back and review the policy. We've had a few more months experience on it. Okay, any other questions on this? No, please go ahead. So
It's only kind of tangentially related, but are there organizations like Federation of Community Councils or community councils that work on like the state or federal level? Basically wondering where might I direct someone if they're like, this isn't, if I feel this isn't really within the purview of community council work because it's not local, try this. Are there anything?
So community councils are
What's your context?
neighborhood organizations.
Mhm.
So at that level, you would be like directing it to, right, you'd like increase the geographic. So then it would be like municipal. I will say there are other community organizations, so like Matsu has community councils, so if it wasn't relevant to us specifically, but was relevant to Matsu, you could direct them that way. I guess I don't know like what the next like to pull out on the map. No, there's not community organizations in the same way, like at that point, I think you just get to local government.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, what's the context? What do you think? Just like neighborhoods?
No, I guess I'm wondering, so in the specific example of this survey, for example, she's seeking information. And this is one way to get it to her constituents or other constituents. But if there isn't a larger or similar organization to send that information out through? Like, what are the options? You know, if you were working at the state or federal level and trying to gather information in that way, how?
Well, she could share it with like her colleagues
Mhm.
and they could forward it to all of their email,
Their email
you know, and I
yeah.
think, my understanding is she did do that, that was what happened, but,
Okay, it was directed many different ways.
yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it come up
Okay.
and I got it from councils as well who sent it to us separately, like they were constituent emails that they forwarded to us, so I had seen that particular survey bouncing around quite a bit.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. That brings us to the bylaw committee. We had our.
Oh, we have a
second-
question
sorry.
from Candy.
Oh, I can see.
I'm
Candy, you have a question?
sorry,
Go ahead.
but for some reason, when I have been hunting forever for the agenda for tonight, and I cannot find it anywhere.
You got it, I will drop it, give you 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. While you're doing that, jump on the bylaw committee. So we had our second meeting earlier this month. Our first meeting the previous month was just kind of introducing us to the topic. This month we started going through the first few sections of a potential set of bylaw changes, which included the topics around membership, our purpose, things like that. So it covered some of the material that's up on the board and was being discussed before 6 o'clock. And we will continue. We're not close to having a final product. We probably need at least 3 or 4 more meetings, but so we will continue with that process and get to the point where we have something that's at least mostly complete, and then start sharing a draft of that with the full board. As I mentioned last time, there are kind of 2 general models we've been looking at. One is to keep the structure very similar as it is now, so all the delegates are part of the active board. The other way is to have a membership structure where all delegates, all community councils are members, and they elect a smaller board, and the smaller board is responsible for kind of day-to-day activity. And we kind of have this weird in between where some things get pushed to the executive council, which is executive board, which is 5 people, 4 people, and everything else is done by the full board. So these are the 2 models we're looking at, and as we go through putting together the bylaws, what we'll probably do is see how it would look under both frameworks, and then end up with a single proposal at the end. And that's how it's looking at the moment. That could change. That's how it's looking at the moment. I'd invite anyone else who's on that committee to share any comments or observations they have. And our minutes and the recordings are all available on the FCC website as well.
And the doc, I put the word document on there.
Draft document. Okay. Any questions on it? Okay, so then we will move on to our next topic, which is budget.
Yeah, and Patrick's not here,
What's going to introduce?
so it's fine. Let me pull up the right stuff. Okay, so you have 3 pages in your board packet. The first one is the 2025 budget. It's a reference. Because we've had a bunch of back and forth about our final budget, and they didn't give us the extra $4 to make this a round number to the nearest 1,000. There was a little bit of finessing at the end, so I wanted you guys to see where we ended up. The page after that, let me change my share screen, is the 2026 budget. This is the one that you guys see, and then the 3rd page, oh, I doesn't have it, is the one that I submit to the assembly as our actual budget, because they just get the top lines. We are sticking to the same top ask. What I have been working with the executive committee on is that our goal is to, because we've had consistent increases, unless we see a crazy cost of living increase that we need to adjust. Our goal is to keep our overall ask the same for at least 2 more years. And then maybe ask for like a larger increase so that it doesn't seem like we're going to the assembly every year and asking for more money, but trying to be realistic and conservative with our funding. And so you see adjustments between 2025 and 2026 that are a little bit reflective of changes in trying to be more accurate. Something that Patrick really wanted was that our personnel work expenses were as exact as possible. And so then everything else is more of an estimate. But personnel is as exact as possible, and then everything else is more in the round numbers, which is why you see outreach being 23 cents, because I had to put it somewhere. I don't like the cents, but that's what he wanted, so I supported it. Essentially, it's gonna be very similar year to year. We might like move 1,000 here, move 1,000 there, but you shouldn't expect to see major changes. Yeah, that's it. Any questions? Yeah. Oh, something.
John.
I have a question on insurance.
Yeah.
Do we come under like an umbrella policy from the city?
No.
That's why we have to pay our own
Uh-huh.
insurance.
And that's why they fund it. And they didn't used to pay for it, and then I actually was like reading the documentation, there was some point where they realized, whoopsies, we're not doing this, and they cut us like a $5,000 check to like make up for it. And you'll notice, something that I've been trying to do with this budget is move our expenses as overhead and outreach and training, which is what I call programmatic work that we do for the councils, is separate, so that when we're talking with them, what does the FCC need to function, and what is the stuff that we're providing to councils, with the goal of being like the programmatic stuff being the lion's share of the work we're doing. This also moves us into a better space when we talk about fundraising and we talk about additional grants and wanting to increase our budget. This is a budget that we can then take and be like, oh yes, we wanna add, like, we wanna get a grant so that we have more physical outreach available, or we have more digital outreach available, or we can, provide more insurance or something like that. Rather than focusing on like combining them for the sake of, well, it's just the same line for insurance. It's like, well, councils get their own insurance, and then we have our overhead insurance, and those are really separate things that we do, and one is more in the program category, and one is more in the like overhead category, so.
So,
Talk this question, and then we have a couple over here too. Yeah, online.
okay, I'll go to Steve next and then.
Can I just,
Sorry.
we're not voting on this today, this is introduction, so if we don't answer all the questions, we will bring it up at the next meeting as well.
But questions are still one. Steve first, then I'll go online.
So what is the insurance for council? What does that include?
The insurance for council covers your general meeting insurance, so that would be all of your meetings that you have in schools or churches that are just your general. It would cover basic, like park meetings, if you're just having like your normal membership meeting, then that's there. And then we also have a little bit of extra money that we call special event insurance. So for example, Northeast is hosting a slightly bigger one where they're hiring a vendor to have porta potties, and they might have some other vendors. We can't do like alcohol or firearms or fireworks or anything like that, but if you want to have like a slightly bigger one, then we have some money allocated for that kind of special event insurance, is what we call it.
Was it a one-off buy?
Yeah, just buy it for the one time of the event. They won't insure us as like a whole. I tried to be like, can I just get a bunch?
Yeah.
And it's a like per day thing, so it's easier for you guys, just like on an as need basis. I will say, if you're just throwing a potluck in the park, don't worry about it. If you need an insurance COI for us from the park, just email us and we can get that to you. We need a little bit of heads up, but we can't get it to you. We have some other questions, sorry.
Well, I have a sub question on what you just said, though.
We can come back to it. I won't forget.
Okay.
Let's Marilyn, please go ahead.
I'm here, but that was exactly what I wanted to know about, and you answered the question as to what the insurance covered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Two real quick ones.
Yeah.
The insurance under overhead, that's the board insurance, correct?
Board, ordinance, comp, and business.
Okay, and then the second is the office rent.
Uh-huh.
And even for the insurance, have we looked at costs? Because I know insurance is one area that's been real loosey-goosey in terms of insurance companies raising rates. Do we see that happening with that or with the rent?
The rent we're locked in, I negotiated it last year for 5 years at I think it's like a 5% increase. I mean, we're paying like $500, $600 a month. Like we're paying nothing. And that includes all of our utilities except internet. I actually think it does include internet, but we get more consistent if we just pay for it. And then insurance, it's been consistent. It's been the same cost for like 5 or 6 years. I'm not expecting it. I haven't heard anything. I did shop around a little bit for the insurance for councils because it's a much bigger cost to see if I could get it cheaper. I couldn't get it from anyone. We fall in this weird civic group. Insurance is essentially what it is. They don't really know how to define us. But I will keep an eye on it and I'm not afraid to shop it around, but we have great standing with State Farm and they don't overcharge us at all. I think like for each individually, we're paying like $400 or $500 for like for workers' comp and then D&O and then also business. So it's super small in comparison to like the value because we have to carry like $1 million or something according to our grant. So we're getting the lion's share of the deal. We have a question from Candy and
Actually, I'll go back to Kathy's question then Candy.
Thank
so
you. So, Turnigan is probably going to partner with Parks and Rec to do a cleanup down at one of our parks.
Okay.
So is that the kind of thing because the media is involved?
That's a part question. I would go to Parks first and ask them, because if they're volunteering to work with Parks Department, they have a liability waiver and they might do their own thing. We don't do insurance for cleanups. What we're working on right now is a template, we're like working on the language of it, is a template release that community councils can use. And essentially you would put in your community council and then you collect the liability waivers for people who are wanting to do like extra activities, because cleanups are not covered. So people are doing that under the like guise of I'm a volunteer and I'm just giving my time and I'm waiving liability. So we're creating that waiver to make that space. But
And I think as TAS, it's been a while since we've sponsored one. The Muni brings forms that volunteers.
we check with Parks first. I imagine that they're gonna do that. If they're gonna have staff on site, I would imagine that they're gonna take care of that.
Was Park Foundation involved? Park Foundation involved?
No, this is just Parks.
Just Parks, they'll probably provide the waiver.
If Park Foundation is involved, Parks is involved is when I reached out to them because I was interested in their liability waiver. And they said anytime we do something, we work with Parks. And so we use Parks, like Park has a waiver and they do a waiver. And Muni has different rules, so like they do cover a limited liability, I believe, for volunteers, but we don't do that. So our liability waiver is very much like, this is like your own risk.
I mean, one of the reason our costs are relatively low is because, we're insuring people sitting around and on chairs in a room with
Yes.
without too many activities. I'm gonna go to Candy's question next. Candy, you got a question?
Do we need to notify you in advance of an event to see if there's coverage or how we do that? Or
yeah, okay, so if you're doing for general meetings, if you're meeting on school property, we at the beginning of the year send them the blanket for all community councils. You don't need anything. If you're meeting with someone, if your general meetings are somewhere else and they ask for a certificate of insurance, you would have to come to us and get that. Because we don't always know where all of you meet. So Hillside, you guys meet at a church. If they ask for a COI, you would just come to us and we would send it to you. For special events, it's kind of the same thing. So if you're meeting at a park and they ask for one, you will have to let us know. And we can provide it. If they don't ask for one, then you don't have to, like, that's on the owner of the property to make sure that you're certain you have insurance. And if they don't, it's kind of on them. If you're doing a bigger special event that you want special event coverage with, you should ask us. And like, I will say it does take at least 30 days to turn that around. So making sure that you come to us as soon as possible. But again, special events are like you're hiring vendors, you're like maybe having performers with like electrical equipment, that kind of stuff. It's not, we're just having a potluck. That's just
Okay.
normal insurance, not special event.
Okay, and, then you said if we were doing a cleanup with parks, then that would fall under Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, if they are co-sponsoring it with you, you should reach out to them about liability waivers.
Okay, we got a pavilion at Taku Lake and had a cleanup. And, as far as I know, there wasn't any insurance discussed, but, I was just, since the topic came up, I thought I should clarify.
I'm gonna bet that when whoever got the permit for the park, they do ask for a COI, but I will say Parks has done zero follow-up for those certificates. So I think that's kind of on you if you're gonna decide to help to make it happen, and if they don't follow up by, I don't know. It sounds like you guys though were taking it on your own to do a volunteer activity, which is totally fine. We don't have insurance that covers that, and that is why we're working on the liability waiver, so that you guys don't have to worry about it. That would probably be an instance where you bring in the liability waiver, but we don't have it right now, so when we have it, I will share it, but it takes time.
Okay,
Okay,
Bruce,
thank you.
yeah, question.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding workman's comp. Our EMR, is that our experience rate ratio modifier, whatever it is? Do you guys review that once a year to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you guys with State Farm?
Yeah, we're with State Farm. They audit us once a year to ensure that like what we're doing versus what we did align, but.
When does that audit take place?
It's right now, actually. I'm waiting on accounting to get back to me. Last year, we got 1 cent back.
Oh, nice.
They literally sent me back for 1 cent. I
That
really.
means it must be a pretty low risk category.
Right, yes. I mean, our workman's comp is Ally and I sitting at a.
I'm not gonna get hit by a bus hanging out in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you never know.
You never, I mean, we're at the.
Asteroids do land on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just suggest that you just ping whoever your agent is and ask them for that, because generally speaking, it depends on how long we had State Farm for.
Probably forever. I have no idea.
So we might be already at the lowest portion, but.
Yeah.
Generally you start up high and then you slowly, and then what happens is you take your total payroll and
Yeah.
take a percentage.
Yeah.
And then they modify your payment based upon that modifier, so less than 1 is always better.
I'd be more than happy to share like our policy with you so you can look at it, but I don't personally.
I would just ask her, and say,
Yeah.
what's our EMR currently, is it at the lowest, should be or
Sure.
can be?
I just, out of curiosity, before we move on, because I can keep talking insurance, but I want to keep us on schedule. Does anybody else have budget questions?
Yes.
Marilyn and Evan, okay.
Yes, hi. I should be showing, I don't know if you can see me or not.
You can see it.
Rogers Park, Community Council does a beautification activity, effort, around the boundaries. And I'm wondering if, the purchase of flowers, and things like that, for the beautification project is covered under this outreach and training, because we are advertising to the neighborhoods, here's what we're going to do, and this is the day and time, please come join us. And we have gotten some new members from that activity. So I'm wondering, with the purchase of flowers or and whatever we're going to do to beautify the area, it's generally by the signs the entrances of the neighborhood. So could somebody answer that?
Yeah, so we historically have allotted funds for outreach efforts that are at the discretion of the community councils. At this time, we've not been able to budget for that. So we don't have funds that can be allotted individually to community councils outside of the postage and distribution. And at the last meeting, I believe, we voted to hold that money and use it to distribute to the areas that will be affected by the community council boundary change. Or at least review that first and see if we can make that happen before we allot it. So at this point, we don't have funding to distribute directly to the councils. I will say the assembly doesn't have much of an appetite for us having funds that we are like facilitating to councils. That is a format that does exist in other cities. It is just not one that we have. So digital outreach covered as our Zoom, our email, and then has like a little bit of money for like some other stuff that I can do digitally for like projects, like those are for us sharing the community councils as a whole, not as allotting to individual councils.
Okay, so to clarify, our beautification projects that we're getting into now, that is hopefully going to be a nicer summer, are not covered under FCC other outreach, and it's incumbent upon the community council and its budget or monies that they have in account.
Yes, and I'd be happy separately to talk fiscal sponsorship if you guys want to do fundraising or ask for in-kind donations from like Home Depot and have that tax write-off. We can offline talk about our fiscal sponsorship where you're able to use our 501c3 status to do fundraising for that effort.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you very much for that information. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead, you already put your hand up, so I have the first thing.
My question's about the 80/60, the training reimbursable. I'm just curious as to, is it reimbursable to the grant?
Yeah, so the way that they set that up, and I think it's a little bit of a reaction to the recent history of the Federation, is that Daryl Hess has oversight, our municipal ombudsman has oversight of the $10,000. That's the funding that I used for the town hall and for the training this year. And so I have to present it to him and be like, this is what I want to do. And 99.99% of the time he loves my ideas. And so he says like, great. And then we send it to him and they reimburse us. So it's very annoying because it says 2041 496. However, when they cut our checks, it's actually that minus $10,000, and then we get quarterly payments, and then that specific amount we have to front the money and then they reimburse it. So it's highlighted in separate kind of because while overall they grant it to us, it functions very separately and it's very frustrating for accounting purposes. But yes.
There's a much higher degree of control.
Yes, they want somebody specifically watching that money.
Perfect, thank you.
Kathy.
It was just a comment that for flowers or other stuff, if councils are doing that, because I know, I'm pretty sure Scenic Foothills did, they worked with the Parks Department. That's another alternative.
Yeah, and I've seen, like Home Depot and Lowe's do donations, so it might be worth just like coordinating and seeing if you can't get some like community efforts going. And they might just do in kind separate where you don't need nonprofit, they're just happy to give kind of thing.
Any other questions on the budget? So we will be discussing it first of next meeting. Seeing any, I was going to make a comment that I really, I think we should have pushed for a $4 increase. So 241 500 for next year, but yeah, we'll keep it about that.
I blame Matthew.
Okay, next topic, and like an ultimate topic for the first part of the meeting is executive committee nominations and voting. I will remind everybody there were some nominations last month.
No, I don't. Yeah. Fine.
So last month we had nominations for 5 positions on the executive committee. Me for chair, Evan for vice chair, Patrick LeMay for treasurer, Caitlin Jackson for secretary, Sarah Prescott for at large.
And Caitlin is also,
Sorry.
Caitlin is also not here.
Right. So first I want to just confirm that everyone who was nominated for those positions is still comfortable. And looking mostly at Evan.
Hello. I am uncomfortable with the list as I want to withdraw the nomination for Evan Lee for vice chair. My schedule has really tightened up over the summer and just a month. The comfort that I thought that I could excellently help as being on the board as vice chair is no longer there, so I'm withdrawing my own nomination to be the vice chair for the executive board.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Would, just for information purposes, would you consider one of the other positions?
I would like to self-nominate myself for at-large member.
That means there would at least be an actual vote for that last.
Second.
Okay. We did speak about this briefly beforehand, didn't we, Sarah? I wondered if you would be interested in perhaps considering yourself for the vice chair position.
I would consider it nominated, yes.
Okay.
Well, consider yourself nominated.
Second.
Second, okay, so nomination second. Right, so I want to, before we go any further on this, so we have a full slate of people nominated. I would like to open up any other nominations anybody has.
Will you repeat the slate?
Yes, I will. So currently we have, just in arbitrary order, we have Evan for at-large, Patrick for treasurer, myself as chair, Caitlin Jackson as secretary, and Sarah Prescott for the vice chair.
To withdraw is at large. I didn't technically do that.
It's all not right.
We'll consider, yeah, we'll consider it. Done.
Are we missing anything? Are we missing anything?
That we have 4, I think we've had 4 positions on the executive committee, and we decided to make it 5 because you need 3 people for with 4. You need 3 people for them with 5. And
It's good to have an odd number.
Yeah, it's better to have an odd number, and it's better. There's more likely of getting 3 people if you're 5.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that's where we are now.
Okay.
I think we could, if there are other people who want to do other at-large positions, we could go further with that if anyone else is interested.
Oh.
Right. Dangerous to ask these questions.
Bring up.
Okay, last opportunity for any other nominations. I'm not seeing any, so I would entertain a motion to close nominations.
So motion.
Yeah, thank you. Charlie, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any disagreement with that? No, so nominations are closed. I think we can do this. I don't really want to force everyone to vote, although I think our bylaws say we do.
They're not specific.
Okay, so what I will do then is, let's do this by voice vote then. So, if, again, I can repeat the, thank you, I think online there's a list of the positions. I can repeat it in the room if anyone's interested, or you actually, why don't you take this part? You can read out again.
Yes. Jake, do we want to do it individually or are we doing it by slate?
Slate, I would do it slate.
Okay, so, this would be, motion to approve the slate as listed. Chair, Mike Edgington, Thirdwood. Vice Chair, Sarah Prescott, Spinard. Secretary, Caitlin Jackson, Bear Valley. Treasurer, Patrick LeMay, Scenic Foothills. At large, Evan Leaf, Sand Lake.
So I think we will do this as again, you should really take this rather than me since I'm a candidate, but if you just do it as a voice vote.
Oh, gosh, okay. But, okay,
So your role function is to act as a.
can I get a motion to approve the slate?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, thank you.
I have
And,
a point of information.
point of information from Marilyn.
Yes, thank you. So the at-large positions, I thought Mike had said there are 5 open positions for at-large. Is that correct?
5, so far we've expanded the executive board for 2 5 positions. So that's 4 named positions plus the at-large. However, there is nothing stopping us from going a little bit, having more than 1 at-large position. So if anyone is interested in that role, there is an opportunity perhaps in the future. We've just closed nominations, but there would be an opportunity in the future if people are interested in taking on another at-large position.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it, Mike.
Do we want to do roll call for voting?
I know.
No.
No, I didn't think so. It'd be-
Okay, can I get hands and then online, either a physical hand or a thumbs up?
Or just say aye.
No, we can't all be eyes, we won't be able to
Okay.
count it. So approving the slate as reported. I should just have it for disapproval. Are you non-voting today or
Well, since I'm just substituting.
are you abstaining then?
Hmm?
Are you abstaining?
Yes, I'll abstain.
Let's
People.
see. 2, 3. Gary, Greg, Dawn, Pamela, I see a yes. Kelly, Lizzie or Patty, and Emily. I have a yes from Emily. I have everyone in the room except for our 1 abstain. You guys are good. They don't know. Who's staying? Gary, Greg. Greg is yes, okay. Gary or Dawn, are either of you no's or are you just abstains? Good. Gary up. Dawn is doing his own thing. Okay, so it's unanimous. I'm gonna say, technically it's consent unless you say no, so. Any against? Any against? Dawn said yes. I don't think anybody online, everybody just has their hands up. But yes, it's unanimous. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have 1 abstention.
We have 1 abstention, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations.
Yes. Oh, full slate, we did a lot of strong arm everyone into it. Well, maybe we did. Just
Honestly, in the past, that has not always been the case.
I know.
So.
Okay, so
Thank you to our board members.
thank you. Thank you very much to all the delegates, to everybody, and all the working councillors. We have a comment period now, if anyone wants to make anything.
Have 1 comment, just to share in the board packet, mine this packet, but on the last page, this was just stuff I wanted to share. None of it is urgent, none of it, it's just stuff going on, so sometimes in the board packets, we don't have time for like me to do a whole thing, so I might just throw a page in where it's like, hey, this is, things to pay attention to.
I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Okay, I volunteered and was elected for the vice president or vice chair. Was that just a temporary fill-in? Or are we talking about 2 totally different things?
It was a temporary fill-in. Our board elections are in May and, technically the new board members won't actually take office until the July meeting, but the July meeting's a picnic, so it's the August meeting. So you are still vice chair until June 30th. Current officers remain officers until June 30th. And then at that time, I will roll you over and then make all the new people sign paperwork.
Yes. Okay, Alex, you have a question?
I don't think they have questions, I think they're not.
Oh, are they still hands up from?
You guys just left them hands.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry
so-
about that, just from the voting.
No, you're good.
That's right, it's very affirmative, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, with regard to your flyer, thank you. With the community council boundaries, so you still don't know when this is going to come to the assembly, that announcement. And I just want to make sure I wasn't listening to anything.
I got some info.
Oh, okay.
When do you think it will be done?
I think it'll be introduced to the assembly possibly mid-June. And then a hearing, the full-on hearing, public hearing, all that will be in July. I don't know if it'll be the first or second.
And they also are gonna do, it's gonna go to committee and it's gonna go to, they're gonna do a work session on it. So I will keep everyone updated when those are scheduled. That's what Tom told me, is that it would go, I think it's gonna go through CEDC.
Okay.
Because George likes to sometimes up there, but we'll see.
It'll get introduced and it'll go to work session, now go to public hearing.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Absolutely, yeah, as soon as I know something, I will share it with you guys, especially because we've all been following this for so long. Maybe we can do it by end of summer.
The approach generally is it can go to committee first, but it doesn't go to a work session until it's been introduced, so.
Right,
It might in committee introduction.
They might refer it back to committee too.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
yeah, I don't.
That's the
TBD.
Yep, but so it sounds like next month, that's, I was assuming June or July to start.
Yeah.
It takes,
Yeah.
generally takes 6 to 8 weeks for things to, once it's been formally approved by planning to get it settled.
Yeah.
We were
4
waiting,
months.
we were waiting on the map yet.
Yes.
That was what I was.
Okay,
Well, actually, difference of course. Is there any communication between you and
What about your thing? I haven't heard from Tom.
I? Oh, yeah, roll call.
I just wanted to make one comment, which is actually about the website. And I like the website a lot, although I haven't actually got around to doing any of the work we need to do on the go-to pages. Or get somebody else to do work. But I've what I like about it is it's still somewhat familiar, but just better. Although I think there were some teething problems with search, which I also noticed, but most of those have been resolved. Most.
It's not as good as I wanted.
There's some more work.
Yeah. That was that.
Oh,
That's been fixed.
Yeah.
So that was a big pickup from, like, I got a lot of phone calls. They were raised there.
But I just wanted to both thank you for finally getting over the last few hurdles to having the website available, and just again encourage those who haven't been using it to use it more, and any feedback will be very welcome.
45,000 people have been on it.
That's a lot.
That's 100, excuse me. Yeah.
But even for
Yeah. It is much easier to have.
Yes.
Thank you.
It should be faster, it's much easier to maintain.
Yes. We have a question for Marilyn.
Hi, thanks again. I wanted to just comment on the website. Ari did a great training with me and run through of the new website. It's much more user friendly, and I've been pushing it and advocating for all community council members in Rogers Park to visit it and take a look and participate in it if they feel so desired. Then thank you so much for all that hard work, because it really is much more user friendly. And I also would like to make a second comment. The view here tonight online, and I'm sorry I can't be there tonight, but the view here tonight, for some reason, it's a lot different, but it's way more visually user friendly. I can see who's talking, I can hear who's talking, and the room view is nice. I mean, I can't see everybody in the back, but anyway, I'm sorry, I apologize. I can't be there in person tonight. It's just bad knees. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And it's 3 minutes early, so we can move on to our second agenda. So now we're, for those of us who've gone through this training, we can take off our FCC board member hats and put on the much more ornate community council coalition hats. That's right, power hats. So let's start with council updates.
Yes, okay, going in, we are back to the A's, going in alphabetical order, and if you have something, we'll have a couple minutes at the end. Abbott, Lou, do one of you have an update? Lizzie?
Yeah, we've got our next meeting will be Zoom only on the 22nd, and then the following meeting will be our annual picnic on the
June 26th.
okay,
Just know that, I already know, June 26th.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Airport, oh, sorry, Lizzie, did you have more?
No, I think that it's we did there was a good we went to the Firewise, a lot of us went to the Firewise town hall. We're going to be pulling together we're pulling together a fire committee and talking about what to do. So that was well attended and well appreciated.
Oh, and I'm just gonna say, we have a local lens coming next month where we're going to speak with Troy Weiss from Basher and Cat, and have a couple members from the Neighborhood Resilience Committee through Rabbit Creek, and hopefully someone from AFD to talk about what it's like to set up neighborhood resilience in your community council and kind of the work that Cat has been doing at the neighborhood level, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Airport Heights.
Yeah, hi, this is Emily. We had our May meeting last week. We managed to scrounge up quorum just barely to pass our list for the CIP program. And that was our last meeting until September when we resume for the fall. I think that's about our only update for now.
Thank you. Thatcher. Hey, Don.
Got it. Okay.
Lots of blocks.
And my computer is very, very touchy. Anyway, we had our May meeting. It was Zoom only, and we discussed the stuff we finalized on our CIP, and of course the fire resilience thing. We've actually started the clear cutting of the swaths on the main road into Basher. And it was mentioned that Troy Weiss has been running that committee, and he's going to present to you guys. Well, he talked to us about it, and we have several people on that committee. It's pretty active, which is great. And as far as I know, we might not be doing a summer picnic this summer with Basher. We'll have to see. That was enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Bay Shore Flat.
I got nothing to come through, thank you.
Okay, we don't have Bear Valley today or Birchwood, Devil Park. Just a minute if you want to update us on anything going with your council.
Well, the biggest change that's going to happen is that we'll be moving to a new location in August. We've been hybrid in at St. Mary's Episcopal Church in 2019. We've been looking for another location in the hopes of getting more attendance. So our last meeting at St. Mary's is going to be in June, and St. Mary's has been a great host, and I'm quite comfortable with it. But I wondered, why aren't we getting more people there? Do people not want to come up the big hill at Tudor and Lake Otis? And our new location will be at the YMCA, which is just about across the street. I mean, just down the road on Lake Otis Parkway. And we're also looking at possible bylaw amendments to make it a little easier to get quorum, since I know we're at the high end, or the high end of quorum requirements among all the councils.
Well, I'm excited you're still gonna be close as a Campbell Park resident. Chris. I don't think we have Chukiak. Nope, or downtown Eagle River.
Hi, we're going to be breaking for the summer, so our next meeting is going to be in September. We worked on a resolution with Parks and Rec concerning some leadership suggestions for our Parks and Rec here locally. We working with our road board concerning some housing developments getting ready to start in our area and already started. Other than that, everyone have a great summer and be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Eagle River Valley.
Hey everyone, Eagle River Community Council, we're also breaking until September, but we had quorum at our last meeting to have a new set of elections. Thankfully, our president, vice president, and secretary treasurer all agreed to continue on, so we're very thankful for that. I got reelected to be FCC delegate again for another year, so you're stuck with me for another year, so that's fantastic. And other than that, we're just all excited to get out and enjoy the nice weather.
Thank you. Nova Cluna, so Fairview, you are our last scheduled.
Hello, everybody. So we have a lot. I'm going to try and keep it in a minute. So for the first time ever, we have decided to cancel our June meeting. The e-board is still meeting, but our general meeting for June is canceled. And our July meeting, we're going to have, but we also have a block party scheduled for July 19th. Everyone is welcome to come, even if you're not a Fairview resident. We'd love to see you there. We're going to have a dunk tank, lots of kids events. It's going to be huge, a beer garden. It's going to be a lot of fun. So encourage everybody to come. And we have a lot going on. Melanie Hess from Parks and Rec, she presented regarding the Johnny Ellis Rainbow Park improvements. They're looking to put interpretive signing, flowers, benches. They're going to do an adopt a garden. Should be really a nice, nice improvements. Mike Robbins from the ACDA, he presented regarding the Third and Ingra RV park plans. They're moving forward. Stephen Stone, he presented regarding the transit plan update. There is a survey out. I don't know if you guys have seen it, and they're working on a shuttle from Cars Gamble to Midtown Safeway. It probably won't start until the fall, but thankfully Mayor LaFrance has allotted $75,000 for this temporary shuttle. So we'll see what
Hello. Okay, if she comes back on, oh, here's Jess.
So,
Kelly. Her internet set it up so you know.
Welcome back, Kelly.
remote locations, internet. So we have a garden called Serenity Garden. It's on and
oh no.
We'll just see if she comes straight back and if not, we'll move on.
One more time.
There we go.
sorry, I'm off
Good
grid.
sense,
So I'm
John.
going to try without the video. We did approve our CIP list as well. And we also had 3 resolutions that we passed. And we have our Reconnecting Fairview. They presented updated project memo and timing, and they have a survey out as well. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for the persistence.
Thank you.
One quick question.
Yeah.
One quick question. Who's in the dunk tank?
That is to be determined. It could be James. Could be James again. He usually offers. We'll see.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else, we're last minute, I know we have something from Kathleen. You're okay with that, Chair?
Ready?
Go ahead, yeah.
at our last meeting, it was a little discombobulated to say the least. We found out in the meeting when our vice president Ed Leach didn't show up, that he passed away in Mississippi on the 9th of May. And his widow forgot all about the council. As soon as I called to say, "Are you on your way?" She went, "Oh, I completely forgot," which I totally understand. So we're still all in shock. He basically went to sleep in his hotel room and never woke up. So, I mean, he's in God's hands, and he's probably doing very well with his family that's there. It's a family that's here that's mourning his loss more now. But I did get a card, because I know some people know him pretty well, that I thought I would bring and have people pass on. We don't meet until September, so we have enough time to get organized, and I'm sure Sherry's already reached out to you for getting things set up, and I think she will do it.
Yeah.
It's what I think how it will work
Yeah.
next, but
I think they're doing a legislative recognition. They're working to.
yes,
try
they are.
that one
And
together.
I wanna thank Ally. I mean, she did an awesome job pulling stuff together. I know that Ed was part of Turnigan before he moved to Russian Jack. So he's been active in the community council system for more than 20 years.
And he was manager.
And he was managing, well, he was an assistant.
Well, he once,
Debbie left.
I actually can clear this up for
Yeah.
everybody. I had the immense pleasure of looking into Ed's history with the community councils, and our records were woefully incomplete. So I worked a little internet magic and turned my internet browser into the 2000s internet browser and viewed the old website back when the website was started. We have records from 2005 of Ed working in the office with, I believe her name was Deborah. Forgive me, I was really just looking for Ed. He worked with the FCC office for a year or two and then took over for Kathleen as the Russian Jack Community Council president. He was the secretary, he was the vice chair, he was the treasurer. He took 1 year off since 2005.
But he still was working
and was still doing stuff.
Yes.
So he's actually been deeply ingrained for 22 years, I think is like what I ultimately found. It was a pleasure to see the work that he's done over the last 20 years, and I'm so glad that I was able to find all the information.
I am too. He really works the magic, like I told you. I did not expect you to be able to pull as much as you did. I think they will do I think they'll do an assembly as well as a state legislative one. I know that both Bill and Forrest are working on one.
It went to a couple of senators, the email I had sent to you guys.
Yeah, it went to Bill.
Yeah, so
And-
it was
and
my
Forrest.
immense honor to
Yeah.
do that for Russian Jack and for Ed.
Yeah, so anyway, was quite a shock, but hopefully everything will go well. I'll just put it over there, Pam, and you guys can pass around if you wanna sign a card. And if you don't know him and you don't wanna sign it, that's fine too.
Thank you for the update. We're so great the time. It's great. People obviously love the organization, love the community. It's good that we can sort of has that feeling back as well. Yeah, is there anything else?
Anybody else have an update?
Any councils?
Just, are we going with announcements for the community councils, or was this?
The next thing we're gonna move on to is the reports from Marilyn, sorry, you have something?
Oh, I was just gonna, I thought you were going in order alphabetically, so I was kind of waiting.
What we do is we do alphabetically, we don't do all community councils, we rotate each month. So we just went to Fairview today and then had the one extra, obviously special announcement.
Gotcha,
Okay.
gotcha. Okay,
think-
I was just gonna say that Rogers Park Community Council had their election last meeting, and Zach Zelatel Meg Zelatel's husband, is going to be the new secretary. Otherwise, our slate of executive officers is staying the same. And we really appreciate the Volunteer of the Year award given to Dave Evans and Bob Butera, our Transportation Committee, along with Dave Evans's wife as well, which I was unaware of, and I don't know her name. What else was I gonna say? We won't meet again until September, and otherwise, we're going to be working on our beautification project that we do every year. And we may have another block party, which we had last year, which was a great success. And we did get some new members from that as well. So thank you. I'm sorry, I'm out of the loop.
Thank you. Thank you. So next month we'll do the next set of community councils after their meeting. Okay, we now move on to, actually right on time. We'll move on to the reports. And I see we have someone from the Mayor's Office, the Acting Chief of Staff, Graham, is here.
Yeah. Happy to, well, thank you. Happy to answer or take questions if that's appropriate about what we're up to in the Mayor's Office and what the Mayor's views on anything you'd like to know about are. I thought you might like to know.
Snowplow, that was the update we were for the last meeting and when snowplow's meeting.
Their names.
Press release? Was there a release?
Nobody told us.
They're named.
I
Yeah.
know, she was able to release.
We had the Snow Solutions team did we had so many wonderful submissions, probably from some of you all, and yeah, we did the naming, it was announced, and I'm sorry I don't have the list with me, but I think if you look it up, I think there's some good press coverage. Yeah.
Right.
I think the puns did very well. So like Taylor Drift, I think made it. Luke
very good puns.
Luke Sidewalker. Yeah, lots of good puns. The puns did very well. So yeah. Next campaign
is that
actually
press
good.
release.
Yeah. Sorry, what's that? But yeah, happy to answer any at all, especially those. I thought you might like to hear about two things that are happening. We shared, I think, with Ari, the Turning the Tide document. I don't know if you've distributed that.
We did not.
Detailing sort of what we're doing about homelessness this summer and in the upcoming years. So there's 5 core areas that we're working on: abatement, housing, enforcement, crisis care, and finally forgetting the thing. Abatement, enforcement, crisis care, shelter, and housing. So those are the 5 core areas we're focusing on. Happy to dig into the details on any of those. I think things you'll start to see soon. Today is the second day of abating the camp at Lois and Benson. The mayor was out there today. We posted that. It started the abatement yesterday. I know we heard a lot of concerns from the community about that one. It was getting pretty bad. Yeah, and Davis will be abated this summer. That one's gonna take a lot of work. We just last week got 12 people into housing from Davis. We're doing a ton of outreach right now to try to shrink the camp before we abate it, to try to move close to home for you all. Something that we've been dealing with for a long time. So trying to shrink that camp down as much as we can before we abate, so that folks aren't just going to get dispersed into the community, but are actually getting into housing as much as possible. That said, we are in a new world. We do not have to have shelter beds open in order to abate. So we will be abating this summer to address dangerous camps. That is a priority for the mayor. We're also going to be enforcing the law. Something happened this week is the prosecutor's office is now up to almost, I think, 99% staffed. We're missing 1 supervisor, up from 25% staffed just about a year ago. We were able this week to prepare for a trial for someone for a $25 shoplifting crime, which, if you were aware, last year 500 cases got dropped because we weren't able to prosecute them. We weren't able to prosecute DV and DUIs, let alone some of the smaller crimes. So this week we were able to prosecute. Might sound cruel, but a $25 shoplifting crime is a huge sea shift in our ability to prosecute crime. And I think that's going to mean a lot both to the officers who are arresting people for doing crime and also for communities. So enforcement is a big priority for us.
So those particular cases that they just timed out.
That's right, they're a speedy trial dismissal. We have a constitutional obligation to bring a trial in a certain amount of time, and because of how understaffed and demoralized the prosecutor's office was, last year, 500 speedy trial dismissals. This year, we're down to 5 or 10 for this year, so, I mean, we're not at 0, but we're getting there.
But you're okay taking questions during.
Yeah, please, yeah.
So Kelly, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Kelly from the Fairview Council, Graham. I've got 2 questions. So when you're abating, it sounds like we don't have to have any place for these people to go now. Is that my understanding? So where are most of the abated people going? That's the first question.
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. Primary goal is to, get them into housing, get them into shelter, and then get them into housing. That's always gonna be the first primary goal. But when camps get dangerous, we no longer have the Supreme Court rule where we have to have a shelter bed open for everyone that we abate. So that does give us more flexibility now to abate camps.
So do you know, I mean, do you have any statistics on where people are going when they're abated?
Well, a significant number, majority of them are, I don't know actually the majority, I don't have the exact numbers, but just for example, on Davis, right? Outreach over the last week, we saw 12 people voluntarily go into housing. I think quite a number of the folks who are at Lois and Benson voluntarily went into housing. We know some people self-resolve is the word for it, which means they find a couch or a family member, they find a place, find housing. Oftentimes we find folks in camps who have vouchers, but have somehow got disconnected from the system, and so then we're able to reconnect those folks to housing. And then some folks move on, right? I mean, I think we've all seen that phenomenon around town where we do have some dispersal that is gonna happen. I think folks who are determined not to accept housing, they are gonna have repeated interactions, and we are gonna continue to look at it.
And I will say, Farina is gonna, because she was not able to come, is coming to our next meeting. And we'll be presenting on the Turn the Tide and getting, able to answer questions for councils interested that have questions about abatement, is kind of how I prepped her, so,
Great.
not that they can't ask you, but
Yes.
she will be here to talk at length.
Perfect.
And we have a question.
I think I interrupted also, Kelly, maybe I had a 2-part question.
Yeah, so thank you. So I had a second question. What's the status of the Golden Lion? I heard a rumor that it was closing.
The Golden Lion's having some work done to improve it, but I do not believe it is closing.
Okay, good. Thank you.
What is the status of campfires in our parks at the campgrounds?
Great question. Last night, the assembly, Mike was there, 12-0 vote, the mayor introduced an ordinance to criminalize open fires. Previously, it had been a civil penalty, and then you were potentially liable if you caused damage. As of last night, well, actually, they set an effective date out of the week, but so in 2 weeks, it will be a criminal penalty for starting a fire that's not authorized by the landowner.
So the city is not authorizing fires in the campgrounds anymore. Is that a correct statement?
Well, I'm not sure it's fair to say we've ever been authorizing them, but now unauthorized fires will have criminal penalties.
Question here. Yeah, Bob, and then Pamela, and I think Fanny. So Bob first.
Why in some of these large unofficial camps, what doesn't the city provide a dump? These people collect a lot of stuff and walk away from, they got no place to dispose of the trash, and I don't know if they're inclined to or not. It seems like that should be something fairly easy to do and not too expensive.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I don't know the total history around that. I do know that as we've been talking about the increased abatements this summer, I understand that Solid Waste Service will be contributing resources, equipment to help with clearing some of the trash. So anyway, that's a great idea. I'll look into it a little more.
I do know for the Mountain View area, that certainly didn't work at Park.
Yeah, I think that, the risk, right, is that it sort of establishes the camp and consummates the activity, right? It's almost like an authorization. Right?
Well,
It becomes an
so Pamela had a question next? And then
Yes.
I'll come back to him.
I'm sorry, yeah, okay, thank you. I just would like to know, as I've noticed the abatements are having the effect of a migration into the greenways along the roadways throughout town. What's being done to address that?
Do you mean greenways like the trails, or do you mean like the lowest Benson camp?
No,
that
I mean
was-
along the roadways. If you go down Northern Lights or Benson or any of the main roadways, wherever there's a green area or bush area, you now have tents, and they're migrating into those areas and building it up. I just wondered what is the plan for that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, again, the lowest, the camp that was at on Benson, between Benson and Northern Lights, the lowest we are abating currently. So the plan is to abate those. That abatement was delayed because very often those are state DOT right of ways, so they're not actually municipal land. So we don't yet have an ongoing agreement with DOT to abate on their property. We were able to get special permission for the camp at Lois and Benson and another part of town near the Ramada. But we're working on getting a ongoing agreement with DOT that will let us abate on their property.
Brad, can
Thank
you
you.
just follow up
Actually-
on that? What special?
Kathy, there's some other people in the queue, if that's okay. We'll come back to that. Andy, I think you had your hand up earlier. You want to ask your question?
Yes. Well, it's kind of a combination because I misunderstood when you were doing the reports. Anyway, Taco Campbell had our first annual cleanup and picnic on May the 17th. And we ended up actually picking up at least 3 camps that had been either abated or otherwise destroyed right around the pavilion of Taku Lake. And so does when you abate camps, there was another one that was photographed. I don't know what the status of that is now. But when you abate camps, do those areas get cleaned up or are they just destroyed?
Agreed, but yeah, the answer is yes, except that winter can make that difficult, right? So oftentimes the trash will be frozen in place or under the snow, and so when we clear a camp in the winter, it can be hard for us to completely clean up that area, so we have to come back in the spring. The Parks and Rec has a team called the Healthy Spaces team that does a lot of the camp cleanup. They're the ones who are out there at Lois and Benson right now. There's only one of those teams, and so if we're doing an abatement, then they're up cleaning up the abatement. They're not in your neighborhood cleaning up there. So we're looking at adding a second team that would be primarily focused on just cleaning up trash. So not a place where people are living, a camp that's either been abandoned or abated. We could add that second team to come in and sort of increase the pace at which we're able to clean up camps, because I think we all know a spot in town where there's trash and not people and wish someone would go clean it up.
I'm not talking about just trash. I'm talking about bedding, bed, chair. But one of my concerns was that I bet I spent an hour cleaning up the shards of a large mirror that had been smashed to pieces. And it was right along the park area where it runs down on Campbell Street by C Street.
Danny, we're getting short of time. Was there a specific question you had from that?
Does cleaning up like sharp glass and like I did with the mirror, does that include the cleanup, or are they just kind of doing a
Or is there
superficial?
what's a good contact to make if you come across these problems?
Great question. Yes, the answer is yes and yes. And on muni.org, you'll find the Turning the Tide link. And on that, there's the GIS map that lets you report a camp. And when you do that, you can report an active camp or you can just report trash. So if there is a significant amount of trash in your neighborhood, you can go to that reported camp feature and you can say, this is a place where there's broken glass, bedding, et cetera. And the Healthy Spaces team will prioritize that for cleanup.
I will
Okay,
put that in the
thank you.
detail now as well.
I know we have a couple more questions in the room. If they're about the camp abatement process related things, we are going to be, is going to be our focus next month, so I'll ask you to hold it. If it's about anything else more general, Mayor's office, please go ahead. So
It's about the Department of Transportation again. So, I heard from you earlier that those relationships are improving, and that's awesome. What is being done to kind of improve those relationships so we can streamline also road issues? Because it's not just the greenways, it's also roads. So we can do municipal stuff in municipal borders.
Yeah, are you thinking of like Spinard Road?
Yes.
Yes.
Also, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
But also just state-owned roads.
Yes, right. I mean, I think probably folks in this room are better educated than most to know that many of our roads are not actually our roads, they're controlled by DOT. What's being done to improve the relationship is we have a monthly Vision Zero working group that involves sort of staff from both DOT and the muni, sort of at the engineering level, so it's not particularly political, and that's looking at solutions for making the roads safer. In addition, myself and municipal unit manager Becky Wynn-Pearson meet monthly with DOT Central Region Director Sean Holland and have a pretty honest conversation in advance of the AMATS meeting. And then there's AMATS, which is itself a way of collaborating with DOT to make sure that municipal input, community input is heard on roads. I mean, Spinard is a good example. We're gonna look at reclassifying Spinard Road as what the neighborhood has been asking for, basically, right? Like, it's a neighborhood road, it's a commercial corridor for small businesses, it needs to be treated not like a highway, which is sort of, I think, DOT's default, right? They primarily operate in rural places, they know how to do big straight roads without local governments and neighbors complaining about, I want my kids to be safe, I wanna be able to shop there. So, that's something I think we're gonna be, anyway, DOT is using that reclassification as an excuse to stop work on Spinard Road. That's a little frustrating for us because those community desires have been known for quite a long time. It's not like that's new information. I think the community's just a little more willing to say like, no, the neighborhood asked for 25 miles an hour, or the neighborhood asked for protected bike lanes, or the neighborhood's asking for traffic calming and pedestrian safety. And so I think it's our role to make sure that DOT is actually listening to those circumstances.
Last question.
I have one quick one. The Beyond the Beige grants and the Arts grants, when are those getting announced?
Those will be announced very soon. Sorry for the delay. I think we might even be meeting tomorrow to get the final sign off on the list.
Very soon, like before our next meeting?
Is your next meeting in a month?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also, you may have noticed if I could, sorry.
Yeah. We only have one other report before we go on to the main topic, so.
Yes.
We do have a few minutes.
Yes, well, at risk of bringing up a less popular topic, or perhaps more, Town Square Park, you may have noticed we closed off yesterday for some repair, tree clearing and painting, so the park is closed right now. I wanted to make sure you all have a heads up. If you love the flowers, I'm very sorry, but we are gonna be painting over them. We did let Ziggy know in advance, but we're gonna be sort of cleaning up with the fresh coat of paint for the concrete parts of Town Square Park. And we're gonna be clearing about 20 trees. Those are generally gonna be unhealthy spruce and ash trees. On the north side, we're gonna clear some trees in order to breathe life into the mature crab apples that are there to give them more space and light. We know from the public safety analysis that we need clearer sightlines in order to deter some of the negative behavior in Town Square. So I know, Kathy, the tree is very important to you and many others here. So we're trying to be very mindful. We've got the J company to come consult with us, make sure we're doing that appropriately.
Are you planting any evergreens then?
And we'll come back next summer and we'll be using the bond funds that the voters approved in order to do a more complete overhaul of Town Square. That's gonna involve reducing the grade, opening up the corners, bringing some more activation to the park. And when we do that, I believe there will be, I don't wanna speak out of turn. I'm not sure how much additional planting is part of that, but it'll be a more substantial amount of work next summer in Town Square.
Opportunity for public input?
Into the plan?
Yes.
Yes, the consultant team is currently soliciting public input.
Yeah, I know, but we have.
And you can find that on the park's website.
Okay, thank you. I do see your hand, Marilyn, but we need to move on to the next.
I'll include, Graham's information and Marie's information in the recap email, and you're welcome to connect with them directly.
Great, thanks, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fred. We do not have assembly school board, but we do have a new and exciting feature, which is planning department is going to give us a short report as well. We'll have Elizabeth, the planning manager, online.
Hi, hello. Can everyone see and hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hi there. So my name is Elizabeth Appleby. I am in the planning department. There are 4 divisions in the planning department, and I manage one of them. That is the current planning division. In current planning, we're sort of the front line where we're the department who mostly answers all of the questions. That's not totally true. Other divisions also help with that. But we implement the code. We take in a lot of the planning applications and provide the staff reports to boards and commissions. There's been a lot of, I think, attention on Title 21 lately in particular, and just all sorts of planning related things going on. So I threw out an idea of, well, what if I just gave like a little brief update? I'm not here to present anything. I'm just, some of it might not even be something I'm directly working on. I just wanted to have 5 minutes with the FCC to say, here's some recent things that happened in the planning world, and here's what's upcoming. To do that, so thank you for having me. Thanks Ari and FCC and Mike and everyone for setting this up. I'm gonna turn off my video just because it's easier for me to share my screen. That'll just be the easiest way for me to communicate what I'd like.
What?
And do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you should see the planning department homepage. I'll paste all the links I'm gonna go to in the chat. We are actively working to update our webpage. It's a work in progress, so we do know that it could look even better, but there have been some changes. If you go to projects, that's probably the easiest way to find information on what's going on currently or in the recent past in the planning department. So I'm going to show 2 of these. So one is our Title 21 updates page, and the other is this one. Is the one right under is the 10-year comprehensive plan update. So I'll show the Title 21 updates page first. So if you click that link, and again, I'll paste these in the chat, but this shows things that are upcoming, and then it also shows recently completed reforms. Typically, unless there's some sort of like special due date or effective clause the assembly puts in, typically once the code change is adopted, that is the law. It does take us a little bit to incorporate all these. So if there's a lot, you can see that happened recently. We've got almost all these. I know there's 1 or 2 that we're still updating the Title 21 PDFs, but you can see what's been recently adopted. If you are interested in what is coming up, so you can see, let's see, these are 2 that happened last night at the assembly meeting. So there's 1 public hearing for a cost threshold for parks reviews, and then updates to site access was introduced. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, or PZC, on June 9th, there are 2 code changes that will be there for a public hearing. So the Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the Assembly. So they will be looking at the manufactured and modular housing ordinance and a change to our nonconformities code. After the PZC recommendation, then those would go to the Assembly and have another public hearing, and the Assembly would decide whether or not to adopt those changes. There are a couple upcoming, so we will have an omnibus, mostly to fix some technical things in Title 21. We're looking to update the fee schedule, and then there is another line that will be added if not by the end of this week, by early next week, we're looking to take the transit supportive overlay zoning district to the Planning and Zoning Commission in July. There will be a work session, the first meeting in July, which I believe is July 7th, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing for the Transit Supportive Development Overlay, or TSDO. That will be July 14th. And then as soon as we upload the materials in the next couple days, then those will be available here. So you would be able to click a link to see those. There's also shortcuts to our existing ways to access information. So you might be looking at, or used to looking at, this portal here. So you can click case information and search for things. If you're in particular looking for Title 21 amendments, you can search amendment or maybe even T21, and you can see what comes up. So here's some Title 21 amendments that are recent. But anyway, the regular links of what you might be used to looking at are still all here. I guess any general questions on this page, I'll copy it and paste it into the chat now.
Hey, we're gonna just have you keep moving on, if that's
Okay.
Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, if I'm taking too long, sorry. And I'll show real
No,
quick.
no, we just
Sorry.
ran over with Graham, and so we just wanna.
Okay, got it. I have one more thing to show, and that is the 10-year targeted comprehensive update. That is going on with the Planning and Zoning Commission. They're currently looking at some of the goals. It's a targeted update. It's not updating the entire plan. So if you want more information on that, there is this webpage here, and there's information on past meetings and recordings. The next work session will be June 9th. And that's basically all I wanted to say tonight. And then I'll also just type in my contact information. If I'm not the person to talk to, I can send your comment or question to whomever it needs to reach. Thank you.
Actually, I do have just one quick question / clarification. When you say the updated comprehensive plan, that's the Anchorage Bowl part of the comprehensive plan. Correct?
That is correct. Yeah, so that's Anchorage 2020 Anchorage Bowl Comprehensive Plan and the Anchorage 2040 Land Use Plan.
That doesn't affect the northern or southern communities. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's correct.
I'm contractually obliged to ask that question.
I have a quick
Yes,
question on
it's a very, very good question.
We really should move on.
How do you get to that website that you're showing right now? Where do I click on? I think that's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
I did paste it in the chat. Otherwise,
link it
it's
in the
our
chat, too.
homepage, and you hit projects, and then you'll see the Title 21 and 10-year update. And it sounds like that's going to be sent around as well.
I think there's a planning sort of tile on the very front page of the.org, I believe.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. So it's via that. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
We look forward to this monthly feature. Thank you. Now we'll move on to emergency operations. Thank you so much for hanging here.
Yeah.
Normally 30 minutes, actually 20 minutes.
Okay, so I got way too much information, so I'm going to just try to be a little bit interesting and just give you a taste. So you want to come back for more. I have a colleague on the phone. Is he sharing or did you share?
I'm sharing.
Okay,
Yeah, so just tell me when.
great. Okay, so my name's Amanda Loach. I'm the director at the Office of Emergency Management. I have at least one planner, possibly a planner and a mitigation specialist on the phone tonight because you asked me for information on 2 of our major plans at the Office of Emergency Management. And I do want to give you information about what you asked for, but I also want to just give you a little bit of information about the Office of Emergency Management as well, because this is my first time visiting with you guys. I have been with the city since 2019, but in emergency management for over 20 years across a few states, in Alaska for 15 years. So I just wanted to talk to you while I'm not in the middle of an emergency, because since 2019, I have been buried in my EOC pretty regularly. So while we're not having an emergency tonight, I can share with you a few of our plans. So if you can roll forward then.
Okay, so the three things that I'm gonna talk to you about is just a little introduction between what's the difference between the Office of Emergency Management and what you guys know as the Emergency Operations Center. And also the two major plans that you asked me to brief out, which are the Hazard Mitigation Plan and the Emergency Operations Plan. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you, and I know probably most of you know plenty about Anchorage, but there is a little bit of information here that's worth sharing. Anchorage have quite a lot of layers of ownership and facilities and Department of Defense here and you know, major port city as well. But we also, you know, there's a price to pay when you live in paradise, and we do have higher risk than 89.1% of United States counties. So that is not only the exposure to risk, but also the amount of bad that can happen if something were to come to visit us here in our community. So we do have kind of a high risk here. Some of that has to do with just being isolated and lack of layers of infrastructure to help us. And lack of mutual aid available like in the lower 48. But we do have a rather hazardous profile to our community. For an emergency manager and an undertaker, a bad day for other people, it's a great day for us. So so I know that sounds bad, but you know, this is my passion and this is why I'm here. So top hazards here: earthquakes, extreme weather, and wildfire. That should be no surprise to any of you, but you should know that avalanches are the highest fatality hazard in Alaska. So we take avalanches very seriously, and our partnerships with the avalanche community as well, very seriously. So moving forward. So on a day-to-day basis, of Blue Sky, that's my buddy Sean McKenzie there, giving an interview about winter preparedness. We do a lot of planning, working with different partnerships. For those of you that aren't registered to receive emergency alerts with our RAVE system, we do have access to the National Emergency Alert System. That's one of our new developments here in Anchorage. So we work with that system and making sure that we have interoperability with communications and with the other teams that are using this. You might get rave alerts from the police department, right? Very often. They are 98% plus user of rave. But a bunch of other departments use that as well, including ours. So I hope you guys are registered for that. In addition, other than planning, training, and exercising, we do work through risk analysis quite regularly, and we consider our most important work in response, but on a day-to-day basis, we're working through prevention and different activities as well. Moving forward. So what have we done lately? So when I came in after the earthquake, the city said, "Oh, okay, well, that was a rough ride. Let's see if we can tune up our response for the next event." So one of the things that we did was we decided to put together a 24/7 duty officer program. We changed our system of management from a little mini city in the Emergency Operations Center to the most widely accepted management system, which is the Incident Command System. We developed our technology. We have an online system for managing our incidents with an incident action planning system. And we transitioned from a voluntold type emergency operations team to a team that wanted to be there. So the coalition of the willing, if you will. For all of you that provide service to your community all the time, I think you know that you really want to do this work with people that want to do it, not people that are being made to do it. So that's our team in the Emergency Operations Center. We're very proud of that team. Moving forward from 2019 to 2022, we updated the policy. Mayor LaFrance was actually one of the sponsors of that when we updated the policy related to emergency operations. We went from an old code from the 80s that just said you're responsible for planning to an actual modern policy that provides all the things that all of you expect an emergency management team to be doing, and in fact, we were already doing them. The code just didn't say that. So we updated the code related to emergency management close after that. And then we decided to make sure that we were doing everything that actually needed to be done. So right now we're moving through a national standards accreditation process. We are the first in Alaska to come as far as we are. We're conditionally accredited as of April 2025. And there are 73 components of emergency management that we're testing ourselves against, and we are moving as fast as we can to meet those requirements. Moving forward. We've also added a full-time planner, yours truly, Sean McKenzie, on the phone right now. We have a disaster recovery program. For those of you that have been through a few different disasters, you know that there's some money there whenever we have a disaster, and we work to get reimbursements when we can. And we have a hazard mitigation program, which does risk analysis, planning, and projects. So things like tsunami signs and tsunami sirens that might be coming to your neighborhoods, that's a type of a project for mitigation. And then cybersecurity, of course, is a new and emerging concern that we need to address in the jurisdiction as well. Make sure you keep me honest on the time. What time did you want me to stop?
Go with
8. Okay.
So we might be able to go.
Okay, so to Grace, guys, this is the 2022, what we call the South Central 2022 storm. This is Ruan Road in Girdwood, I believe, and this is just a picture of a gray sky, right? Sometimes we wake up in the middle of the night and we're working with a lot of different people, and this is what we call a gray sky day. So moving forward. Again, we already talked about this. We utilize the National Incident Management System in order to manage our emergencies. That's part of a wider system of resource management and on-scene command, joint information, etc. So I just wanted to show you that. And then even more an eyesore chart, you cover one eye and see if you can see where we are. We're in the red square there. That's the Emergency Operations Center. So the on-scene command out in the field builds up to their area and whoever's responsible for them out in the field, and they call for help and they say, we need. And that's what the Emergency Operations Center does, is we support them in any way that we can. And then moving on up, it might go to the state and feds. I think you guys have all lived in Alaska long enough to know that a lot of times we're in. And so the emergency might be over if we're not ready whenever it occurs. It might be over before help arrives. So we're feeling pretty good about where the Emergency Operations Center is now. Moving forward. So again, the incident commander role, there's usually an incident commander out there in the field directing, and he's the most qualified, or she's the most qualified person in the field. If it's an avalanche or a fire, you'd have someone that's an expert in that area, managing, commanding in the field. And then they would be relaying whatever their needs are or whatever the support they need back to us. There are exceptions where the EOC becomes command and control. COVID was one of those. So COVID was just so large that we took on command and control of that, and we had several layers of different teams working on that, which is no surprise to any of you. So again, emergency operations centers can be physical or virtual locations. That's another capability that we've developed and maintained in the last 5 to 6 years. This is when we were at the Lusac Library all spread out during COVID. But yeah, that's what an emergency operations center is. And then as well, the functions: collecting, analyzing, sharing information, doing resource requesting and plans and public information. Moving forward. And we talked about those plans that we make. Everybody needs to know who's doing what, when. You guys also want to know. We have emergency status sheets for you guys to look at, and briefings whenever you guys need briefings out in your communities. So there's just lots to be done to make sure that everybody can help with whatever level of help they can help, because neighbors are often helping neighbors, and individuals and communities are usually the biggest component of first responders, honestly. Moving forward, some more partners that we work with. This is just a few. And our first plan. So I'm gonna go into the all hazard mitigation plan first, because as we work in emergency management, it's a cycle. But we try to work based on risk, and if we can significantly reduce or remove the risk, right? Think if you're in a flood prone area, putting it up on stilts, something like that. Or if you're in an earthquake, if we have bracing on the wall, or if we don't have anything hanging over our head while we're asleep in an earthquake, that's mitigation. So this is what our all hazard mitigation plan is. Again, significantly reducing or completely removing the risk and the tactics that we take to do that. So we have a 5-year plan. It's approved by FEMA. It's been in place since 2022. And this is a required plan in order to receive, you've probably heard the fire department say they have to have a wildfire plan in order to receive grants. We have to have a mitigation plan in order to receive grants. So we do have some of these grants right now that are at work in the community, but this is the plan that identifies what our risks are and the strategies and ways that we're going to address those risks. The planning process is the same for almost all of our plans. And we have a team that works through whatever the purpose of that plan is, and then develops ways of dealing with whatever the problems are in the plan. There's a community profile, asset inventory. One of the things that we did really well in the 2022 plan is we talked about how much everything was worth. But there's a lot more to risk than money, right? There's impacts to the environment, impacts to our responders, impacts to the economy. There's all different kinds of impacts that a hazard can have. And so moving forward, we're hoping to look at more of those impacts, and I'll talk to you more about that. So planning strategies at work. These are the different plans that these are the different projects that we have working right now. We are working on updating our plan because it's a 5-year plan and it was last updated in 2022. So we're working on that. We're also working on getting all new data for the entire jurisdiction, having new LiDAR flow and new ortho imagery flow. And then we also are working on updating a few more plans, which are in our planning department. I saw our planning department here, including the historic preservation plan, the housing forecast, etc. So this is all mitigation money at work that if we didn't have a plan, we wouldn't be eligible for that. And then my hazard mitigation program manager wanted me to share with you our latest and greatest project that we just completed at the end of 2024. And that was a all new hazard and risk assessment. In that, we brought together all of our teams of experts, and they decided that we now have 16 hazards instead of 12. So that will be incorporated into the plan moving forward. Natural, human cause, and technological hazards. And then we talked about risk before. There's measures of recurrence or frequency of events. There's vulnerability, which is how much can we get hurt from this threat, and then what are the consequences of that? And that's how we really decide what are our worst hazards. And then here's just a hazard of late that you guys might be interested in. This is the volcanic ashfall little thumbnail that we have for each hazard. And as you see in the middle there, it talks about vulnerability and critical infrastructure that may be impacted, public health risks, water supply contamination, transportation disruptions, limited public, preparedness. Not true anymore, right? Like we were ready for that Mount Spur to erupt. So anyway, I just wanted to show you, this is just a sample. We have one of these for all 16 hazards at this point.
Yeah, everybody immediately went to Costco.
Okay, and so coming soon on that plan, we talked about that national standards assessment that we're conducting right now. So we've had that plan assessed, that 2022 plan assessed, and it did pretty well. But we will incorporate their feedback. And then we are working on language outreach, language access outreach. So we have tons of stuff that's translated. We need to make sure that it's available to people, right? People need to be able to click and find information about Anchorage in whatever language it is that they need. Do we have every language? No, we don't, but we have a lot. We're just working on putting it out there in the community through the ether. Mitigation signs, I know Girdwood was looking for mitigation signs. You know, of course, people need to know where they're gonna evacuate and how they're gonna evacuate before a sign just pops up in their neighborhood. Otherwise, the sign might be a little bit scary. So we're working on that for both Girdwood and other inundation areas like the port. And then we already talked about the rest of that. Let's move forward. I'm trying to go. Okay, so this is my favorite. This is our response plan. This is our operational response plan. And both of these plans, by the way, are on the web. They're available to you. We want everybody to know them. Please read them. You can read them and reread them if you'd like. But this is our operational plan, and it doesn't have all 16 hazards yet because we didn't know. For instance, we just learned we had a risk to tsunami last year. Was it last year or was it 2023?
23, I think.
Okay, so you know, we're looking at cybersecurity now. That's not something that we maybe would have looked at 5 or 6 years ago. That's what we're looking at. So anyway, this is our response plan, and we are currently working on updating it. It helps us prepare for, respond to, and recover from large incidents. It identifies roles and responsibilities. So who's the lead coordinating agency for fire? Who's the lead coordinating agency for earthquake? Who's the lead coordinating agency for this, right? Everybody has a role, and we try to identify that in this plan. It also implements the incident command system. That's something that we talked about. You know, a lot of responders know the incident command system. And so now that we use the incident command system in Anchorage, people can help us more easily. So that's one of the reasons we like that. Okay, you can move forward.
Motion to extend. I was gonna say, yeah. Was that 5 minutes?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Which is
I'm
about 5
almost done.
minutes. Nobody objects. Nobody objects.
Okay, so same planning process for this one. We bring together a team, we decide what we're gonna do, and then we move forward with developing the plan. However, this plan has been in existence for quite a long time, so we're just maintaining and updating this plan, but same planning process. Moving forward. So the base plan talks about roles and responsibilities, describes emergency operations, and then details some of the tasks and resources related to that. We have functional annexes. So one of the ones that's super popular in every single emergency is mass care, right? Everybody wants to know about sheltering and feeding and transportation and things like that. So that's a functional piece of emergency management or public information. That's a functional piece of emergency management. And then we have hazard specific appendices, right? Like you may be like, I only care about earthquake. So then you would go to those hazard specific pieces. And then additional elements. So some of the other additional pieces, we put in some emergency operations center job aids. We put in some standardization for how we're doing reporting. And of course, glossaries and authorities and acronyms, which I'm sure I think I've done well, not saying any acronyms yet. Okay, and then I think he's just telling you more about the base plan. You can see that. I have handouts for you. And then more about the functional annexes and the hazard appendices. And then key information, I think we've talked about all of this. So coming soon, what's next? All of this is basically done. Except for the EMAP, because we just finished the accreditation and baseline for our measuring up against national standards. So we already have a continuity of operations plan, we already have a continuity of government, we have a brand new emergency alert system plan, etc. But all of that will be incorporated into the 2025 version of the EOP that we're working on right now. Questions? Did I talk too fast? I'm sorry.
Just trying to get a handle on how you guys operate in regard to other agencies and kind of through the ICS system. So for example, if the Port of Anchorage, experienced a major fuel spill, how would your agency respond and react, and how would it implement the resources to mitigate or to contain it and all that other stuff?
Yeah, so we're lucky in Anchorage that the AFD has a great hazmat team. And so hopefully the hazmat team would be able to respond to that. I have a Coast Guard veteran on the phone, so he'd probably be able to tell you a lot better about this. But it depends on the specifics of the spill, if you will, who would become involved and who would be responsible. But the way it works is if the on-scene commander or the on-scene command gets overwhelmed or needs additional resources, we can support them. So let's say, for instance, they needed a J-Bear or a DoD asset, or they needed somebody to come from the lower 48 to help them. They would tell us that, and we would go through the state and get what they needed. And sometimes we can find it on the open market, right? And sometimes whatever the resource is, we can buy it. And we can help with that too, because of course there's procurement rules that we have to go through. So so there's those types of things as well that we can help with.
Thank you. In the case of an emergency were to happen, I remember in my youth that a way that we would be alerted was that the TV would make a large beep, beep.
Yes.
And the red bar would show up. For the sake of it, how is the public awareness for immediate emergency done in the modern day?
Yeah, so they still have the beep, 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 and that's at our partners in the broadcasting industry. And thank goodness, the smart people are gonna figure out how to do that over our Internet of Things and our Alexas and our whatevers eventually. Eventually, meaning soon, they're probably gonna figure out how to do that. For now, I mean, most of us will get it right here on our phone. It won't necessarily go beep, beep, beep like that. It'll be something different. But we do have the capability to fire off to a geographic area, an alert. And that's a fairly new capability, maybe only a couple years for Anchorage, and one of those capabilities that we've been developing recently. So, but it's a national warning system.
It's actually 8:25, so I guess technically we're finished, but are you happy to take a few more questions?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Question from, I think, Andy online?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you said about registration, and my phone is set to pick up emergency alerts, but is there another registration that I need to do?
Yes, ma'am. So there's an opt-in way to get alerts in Anchorage, and we have a high registration rate for opting in system. We have about 37,000 people of the 300,000 and change that live here that are already registered. So that's 12%, and normally there's only about 5%. But you can text the word Anchorage to 67283, and that will register you for the opt-in system. You will get more alerts than if we were to send you one through the national warning system. The national warning system is going to hit every cell phone that's in Anchorage. You don't have to register for that. But if you want regular information that comes from local entities, The way to do it is to register
Oh,
for
that's the
that,
rave system.
for that, yes, sir, for that opt-in system. And Rave Smart 911 is like tissues and Kleenex, right? Like it's, those are the same.
Could you say that, Evan?
Okay,
Sure.
I registered because I'm a senior, I registered with a senior several years ago. How do I find out if my name is still on the list?
I would just get your cell phone out and text the word Anchorage to 67283.
Okay, okay,
I'll
thank you.
link the online sign up for the rave and the recap email as well.
Yeah.
John?
Well, what would happen if a campfire or a fire in one of our neighborhood parks started to get out of control? It looked like, this is much larger than what we're used to. How would the fire department, your department interact, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have a duty officer and our duty officer can be dispatched by our by 911 dispatch. So the same dispatchers that are actually talking to the fire, I mean, I would say for sure, if you saw an out of control fire in the urban interface, that you should call 911. And then those same dispatchers have access to our duty officer. And then as well, we could, we can go right into our cell phones or our computers and fire off those alerts that we were talking about. So the police department, which is the primary 911 dispatch, sends those alerts every day, and they know how to do that very well. Well, I shouldn't say every day, that is not accurate. Nearly every day, the police department.
It just feels like that.
Yeah.
So your primary role is to raise awareness if there's fire.
Well, our primary role is to amplify, right? There will be, the second something like that happens, there will start being just a wave of communication among people that are there, among first responders, among families, etc. So yeah, our job is to try to provide redundancy and amplification when there is a dangerous situation. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. So, two quick questions. One is, I saw recently, I think there was a contract just put out for updating the seismic information around Anchorage.
Yes.
Does that come from you, or does that start somewhere else?
So that project came from the 2018 earthquake.
Right.
And the 2018 earthquake had HUD funding, which is a CDBG-DR, disaster recovery. And we are coordinating that grant, but the planning department or possibly project management and engineering are managing that.
Right.
So we're just helping get the money to the subject matter experts to handle.
My other question was, if Anchorage is higher than 89.1%, what's near the very top? What's in that top?
We make sure we don't go there.
I don't know, because 89.1 is high enough for me. So I don't know. Plus, I don't want to
be in the top 1%.
Plus, I don't want to move there.
Probably.
So, yeah, I had a question and a comment, and the comment making, we actually had someone from the fire department show up. at One of our community council meetings today, and we asked that exact question, what happens if fire happens, park, that's in our neighborhood? And you basically, oh yeah, well, what we do is, of course, fire department show up, and then they go around, start knocking on the door, start notifying people, and then the question came, well, what's the best thing that you could do? And he said, well, just turn the water.
Yeah, that's right.
Turn the water on, turn the sprinklers on, and if you turn the water on, we see it running, we might use that water to put the fire out. But if that park's on fire, essentially a brush fire, big wildfire, the best thing you can do is turn the water on and get out of there.
Yes.
So how do you turn the water on in a park?
No, it's your house.
No, not your house. Yeah, if you turn on the water, if you have access to hoses and just They say that a very small amount of water can help with a
Yeah,
wildfire.
that's what he was saying.
But of course, if you feel like you're in danger, just leave.
There's a question I have was, what's the plan with that LiDAR and imagery?
Yeah, so lots of things, right? I mean, LiDAR and imagery, the better data that you have, I mean, the specifics of that grant
Right.
was to make sure that we have what we need for wildfire.
Right.
But we will use it for all hazard, we'll use it for development, we'll use it for everything. If we can have the best that technology has to offer, we can do different things.
So what do you plan with that for now? What you should do?
Oh, I do not know.
Make that.
Do not know.
Yeah, Greg, I think Greg, you got the last question?
Yes, my question is regarding, well, my experience is I work on the merchant ships, mats and lines. I work on the ships as an engineer that brings everything to anchorage. And one of the gaps that I see in the emergency management is that it isn't talked about is that in a time of emergency, you are reliant on the merchant ships to bring everything to anchorage because that's our critical infrastructure. It all comes through the port. So during COVID, we were reliant on healthy mariners on those ships, none of whom lived in Alaska except for me. And there wasn't any coordination or talk about ensuring that this vital infrastructure was being looked after and that people were being vaccinated who worked on those ships. And as soon as one person on the ship got sick, it was going to be a case where the whole ship wouldn't be able to come. And so then, because we only have a few days of food and goods, what is the plan for ensuring that critical infrastructure on the ships, and how can you coordinate better in the next event? What can Office of Emergency Management do in the future to ensure that vital link?
Yeah, so two things. I just wanted to let you know that we did spend quite a bit of time helping to try to make sure that the fishing industry and different industry partners had some support during COVID. I don't want to go into the specifics of that, but for sure, we were watching when there was a ship that might have a sick person. We were helping with isolation, etc. So there was quite a bit of work during COVID to try to support different industry partners, vital, critical industry partners. And then secondarily, I would say this. So, I grew up in the lower 48, and when a disaster happens, a lot of time people are getting water, people are getting food. That doesn't usually happen in Alaska. Whether you live here, whether you live in the roads off the road system, if you live in a village, people are very prepared here in Alaska. And I think the best thing that we can do is make sure that our home kits are prepared, make sure that our car kits are prepared. I was on St. Lawrence Island and there was a power outage there for several weeks. And it's part of traditional knowledge there for people to be prepared. And the elders were very serious about people being able to take care of themselves. And that was in the middle of the emergency. So, Alaskans have a long history of being prepared. And I would say that's the most important thing, checking on your neighbors when there is an emergency, that sort of thing. So hopefully that's helpful a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?